People love to claim British war movies from the 1950s were all stiff upper lips and patriotic speeches. But let's set the record straight. Some of these films were raw, unfiltered, and even made government censors sweat. How many gritty British war dramas from this era have you actually seen? Most get buried under the Hollywood blockbusters, never getting the recognition they deserve. Think you know them all? Get ready. These stories have a few tricks up their sleeve. The Cruel Sea, 1953. Let's start with a film that will punch you right in the gut, The Cruel Sea. Forget heroic charges or romanticized battles. This is a movie that shows war at its most merciless, one gray wave at a time. The story plunges you into the world of British Navy sailors on convoy duty during the Battle of the Atlantic, and it does not flinch. The enemy isn't just the German U-boats lurking below, it's the ocean itself. A relentless force that doesn't care if you're a hero or a nobody. Jack Hawkins leads as Commander Erickson, a man who looks as if he's carrying the entire war on his back. Every line on his face feels earned. The crew? They're ordinary men, nervous, exhausted, sometimes scared out of their minds. There's no Hollywood polish here. You get the choking diesel fumes, the salt stinging your eyes, the endless hours watching for periscopes. You even get the boredom, the kind that eats at you until the next torpedo strikes and suddenly half your mates are gone. What makes The Cruel Sea truly unforgettable isn't just its realism, it's the moral gut punches. There's a moment where Erickson is forced to make a choice, drop depth charges on a U-boat and risk killing his own men in the water, or let the enemy slip away. No easy answers, no happy endings, just the brutal logic of survival at sea. You watch it and realize not every victory feels like a win. When this movie hit cinemas, British audiences saw themselves, tired, scarred, doing what needed to be done. Critics called it one of the most honest war films ever made. It was a huge box office success in the UK, but ask people outside Britain about it today, and you'll get blank stares. That's a crime, honestly. If you want to know what the war felt like for the men who fought it, not the generals, but the guys down in the engine room, The Cruel Sea is a wake-up call. War movies don't get much more real. The Ship That Died of Shame, 1955. Now, buckle up, because The Ship That Died of Shame is nothing like your typical war epic. This one's a moody, strange beast that straddles the line between war story and noir thriller. You get a taste of post-war Britain, gray, battered, and stumbling into the black market just to stay afloat. The premise? Three ex-Royal Navy men, haunted by what they did and what they lost, take their beloved motor torpedo boat out of mothballs and into the murky world of smuggling. They once used this sleek craft to sink enemy ships. Now they're running cigarettes, booze, and before long, darker things across the channel. Each job chips away at what's left of their honor. Richard Attenborough and George Baker give performances that feel tired, raw, and real. These aren't square-jawed heroes. These are men grasping for meaning in a world that's moved on and doesn't want them anymore. The real star, though, is the boat itself. Once a vessel of pride, now a haunted relic. As the crew's jobs grow shadier, the ship starts breaking down in mysterious, almost supernatural ways. Is it guilt, bad luck, or something far more chilling? What's remarkable is how the film ditches easy answers. There's a creeping sense of decay, not just in the boat's battered hull, but in the souls of its crew. The story feels like an obituary for the wartime generation, guys who gave everything, only to find peacetime left them with empty pockets and haunted dreams. Critics loved the movie's weird, somber energy, but it baffled American audiences. Too bleak, too strange, not enough action. It faded from memory almost overnight, but its impact on British cinema was real. Filmmakers took notes. Post-war stories could be complicated, messy, even a little supernatural. If you want a war film that haunts you long after the credits roll, The Ship That Died of Shame will do the trick. It's a ghost story, and the ghost is the past these men can't outrun. Ice Cold and Alex, 1958. Imagine a war film that's less about guns blazing and more about raw human survival. Ice Cold and Alex is exactly that. This isn't a story about glory or medals. It's about crawling through hell with the sun beating down on you, desperate just to make it out alive. The setting is North Africa, World War II. Picture blistering sand, broken down vehicles, and a tiny group of exhausted Brits pushing an ambulance across the desert, dodging mines, enemy patrols, and their own doubts every mile. John Mills stars as Captain Anson, a man hanging on by a thread. He's supposed to be the leader, but you can practically see the weight of command grinding him down. Alongside him are Sylvia Sims, Anthony Quayle, and Harry Andrews, all giving performances that feel honest and lived in, not like movie stars, but like real people desperate for a cold drink and a little hope. The journey from Tobruk to Alexandria is one long nightmare of mechanical failures, close shaves, and unexpected twists. There's no room for heroics here. Every decision is about survival. Do you trust the mysterious South African hitchhiker? Can you push the ambulance one more mile? And, most hauntingly, will anyone actually make it to that mythical cold beer in Alexandria? What makes this film unforgettable is its mood. Director J. Lee Thompson somehow captures both the suffocating heat of the desert and the chill of creeping doubt. There's tension in every silence, every side-eye, and that famous final scene, when the survivors finally reach Alexandria and down an ice-cold lager, is one of the most earned moments in any war movie, anywhere. That glass sweats, the characters sweat, and you practically feel the relief in your bones. It was a hit in Britain, but outside the UK, it's criminally overlooked. Forget the typical war film noise. Ice Cold and Alex is about small victories, shattered nerves, and how survival sometimes means just putting one foot in front of the other. If you ever felt like giving up, watch this movie and see what real endurance looks like. The Wooden Horse, 1950. Some prison escape movies are about explosions and chaos. The Wooden Horse is about patience, ingenuity, and the kind of British stubbornness that turns monotony into legend. This is the true story of 3 British POWs in Stalag Luft III, who pulled off one of the war's most ingenious escapes and did it right under the noses of their captors. Forget the Hollywood action playbook. This film feels almost documentary-like. Every day, the prisoners bring a homemade gym horse into the exercise yard. 1 man vaults, 2 men dig, right beneath the German guards' boots. There's no roaring soundtrack, no swagger. It's slow, methodical, and completely nerve-wracking. You're not watching a blockbuster. You're watching men fighting off despair by making a plan and then sticking to it, inch by inch. What makes The Wooden Horse so gripping is its authenticity. Many of the cast and crew had actually been prisoners of war. There's an unspoken bond on screen, the quiet understanding that, for these men, digging is an act of hope. The tunneling scenes are deliberately repetitive and exhausting, capturing the real slog of escape. You start to feel the ache in your own arms, the grit in your teeth, the gnawing anxiety that one slip could ruin everything. When the escape finally comes, it's not some explosion of freedom. It's almost matter of fact, one more task on the long road back to life. But for the real men behind the story, this was survival, pure and simple. They didn't just break out. They broke through the monotony and fear that could have crushed them. The Wooden Horse did well in Britain, but fizzled elsewhere. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but ask any veteran and they'll tell you, this is the escape film that actually gets it right. If you want to see what quiet bravery looks like, this is your film. The heroism here is silent, and that's what makes it unforgettable. Angels 1-5, 1952. How do you make a war movie about fighter pilots without turning it into a high-flying fantasy? Simple. You keep it grounded, both literally and emotionally. Angels 1-5 does just that. It drops you right into the heart of the Battle of Britain, when the RAF was the last thin line between the UK and invasion. But don't expect dazzling dogfights every 5 minutes. This film is more interested in the men who kept those Spitfires in the air and the sweat-soaked reality of day-to-day survival. Jack Hawkins is back, this time as Group Captain Tiger Small. And he's not the only one delivering the goods. The whole cast looks and sounds like the real deal. Tired, anxious, sometimes cocky, often just scraping by. The movie is peppered with technical details and small moments. Ground crews patching bullet holes, pilots nursing bruised egos, and everyone living under the constant threat of being the next name missing from the mess hall. The real trick here is the tone. There's a weary humor, the kind that only comes from facing danger with your friends. Pilots trade barbs, officers grumble, and in between, there are flashes of pure adrenaline as the scramble bell rings and everyone races to their planes. The aerial sequences aren't just for show, they're built from actual RAF footage and practical effects. When those planes go up, you can almost smell the petrol and fear. What sets Angels 1-5 apart is its honesty about the cost of all that bravery. Not everyone makes it home. There are mistakes, misunderstandings, even friendly fire. The film doesn't gloss over the toll on the machines, on the men, on the country itself. It was a hit with RAF veterans and audiences who remembered those years all too well. These days, you barely hear it mentioned outside aviation circles. But if you want a window into what it felt like to hold the line in Britain's darkest hour, Angels 1-5 delivers, quietly, firmly, and with a real punch to the gut. The Colditz Story, 1955. If you think you've seen every POW escape movie, think again. The Colditz Story is the blueprint that everyone else copied. But don't expect a tale of swaggering rebels and flashy breakouts. This is the story of relentless planning, constant setbacks, and a bunch of British officers who turned a Nazi fortress into the ultimate game of wits. Colditz Castle was a real place, a massive, forbidding fortress reserved for the Allies' most incorrigible escape artists. The Nazis thought it was escape-proof. The British just saw it as the ultimate challenge. The film, based on Pat Reed's best-selling memoir, throws you straight into the chaos. Tight-lipped officers, surly guards, and endless drills to outsmart their captors. John Mills leads the charge, playing Reed himself with a perfect blend of cool, under pressure, and quiet frustration. This isn't a film about one big, daring breakout. It's about dozens of failures, betrayals, and false starts. Every tunnel dug is discovered. Every fake ID is scrutinized. It's a chess match with lives on the line. The men's sanity is stretched to the breaking point. When one finally slips through the net, it feels less like a victory and more like an act of defiance against fate. The real genius of the Colditz Story is its attention to detail. The routines, the code words, the endless boredom, it all feels lived in. There's no big budget gloss, no sugarcoating the cost. And yet there's a wicked sense of humor here too. The British officers prank the guards, sneak forbidden radios, and invent distractions that make you laugh even as you bite your nails. Released in the mid-50s, the movie was a smash in Britain, reviving interest in the true stories of Colditz survivors, but its fame faded outside the UK. Today, it barely gets a mention in lists of great war films. That's a shame, because the Colditz Story proves that sometimes the most powerful weapon is a stubborn mind and the courage to never stop trying. Dunkirk, 1958. Before Christopher Nolan turned Dunkirk into a modern spectacle, British filmmakers had already given the world a stunning, nerve-shredding portrait of survival and evacuation. Dunkirk 1958 isn't just about soldiers on a beach, it's about a whole nation teetering on the edge of disaster and the ordinary people who decided, against all odds, to fight back. The film splits its focus between two desperate journeys. On one side, you've got John Mills leading a ragtag group of soldiers stranded behind enemy lines, inching their way across shattered French villages, dodging bullets, and clinging to any hope of rescue. These aren't superheroes, they're exhausted, hungry, and terrified, but they refuse to give up. Every loss stings, every setback feels personal. On the home front, Bernard Lee plays a mild-mannered reporter trying to rally the British public, hammering home the reality of the situation and urging civilians to take action. It's a rare war film that gives as much attention to the people left behind as it does to those in uniform. The tension builds not with explosions, but with the gnawing fear that help might never come. When the little ships of Dunkirk finally set sail, dozens of ordinary boats, manned by fishermen, bankers, and weekend sailors, it's not played for easy sentiment. The film captures the dirt, the sweat, and the quiet, stubborn heroism of a country that simply refused to roll over. Dunkirk was a massive hit in Britain, one of the top box office draws of the year. But as time passed and bigger, flashier war films took over, it drifted into the shadows, which is a shame, because this version nails the chaos, the confusion, and the sheer guts it took to snatch victory from disaster. Want to see what national courage looks like? Don't miss this forgotten gem. Sea of Sand, 1958. Some war movies shout at you with bombast and bravado, but Sea of Sand takes a different route. It's a tense, lean, nail-biter of a film that knows just how dangerous silence can be. This is the story of an SAS patrol stranded deep behind enemy lines in North Africa, and every grain of sand feels loaded with danger. The plot is deceptively simple. A handful of British commandos are sent on a mission to blow up a German fuel dump in the middle of the desert. Sounds straightforward, right? Think again. The desert is an enemy all its own. Heat so fierce it fries your mind. Endless emptiness that messes with your sense of direction. And the constant threat of being discovered by the enemy. For these men, every mile forward feels like a coin flip between life and death. Michael Craig, John Gregson, and Richard Attenborough deliver performances that ring with tension and exhaustion. These are men in over their heads, yet refusing to break. There's barely a moment to breathe. Every conversation, every footstep is laced with the knowledge that one mistake will doom them all. The film is loaded with tight close-ups, long silences, and sudden bursts of violence that remind you just how fragile survival can be. Sea of Sand doesn't glorify war. Instead, it paints a picture of grit, camaraderie, and the kind of small-scale heroism that often gets buried in the big, noisy war movies. When someone falls, the grief is raw and immediate. When a plan succeeds, it's less about triumph and more about relief. The film nails the simple truth. Sometimes surviving another day is the bravest thing you can do. British audiences loved it, but in the decades since, it's become one of those movies you only hear about from serious film buffs. Don't let that fool you. If you want a war film that will have you holding your breath and rooting for the underdogs, Sea of Sand is essential viewing. They Who Dare, 1954. Ever wonder what happens when a war film ditches the cozy comforts of home and drops you right into enemy territory, outnumbered, outgunned, and utterly exposed? That's the energy of They Who Dare, a movie that does not hold your hand or offer any easy way out. Set in the savage heat of the Greek islands, this is the story of a doomed commando raid, inspired by real events that most people have never even heard about. Dirk Bogarde stars as the no-nonsense leader of a ragtag bunch of British Special Boat Service soldiers and Greek partisans. Their mission? Land on a Nazi-occupied island and blow up 2 vital airfields. Sounds heroic, right? Only this isn't a movie about victory. This is about guts, mistakes, and what it's like to face the real odds when everything is stacked against you. Director Lewis Milestone doesn't sugarcoat the story. The landing is a disaster from the get-go, equipment lost, the team scattered, and the island crawling with German troops. Every step is a new problem, and every plan unravels faster than you can say, mission accomplished. The tension is relentless. Will they get out alive? Should they even try? Or does the mission matter more than any one life? What makes They Who Dare different is its refusal to glamorize anything. You feel every scrape, every desperate scramble for water, every moment of regret. The Greek landscape is both breathtaking and deadly, a place where beauty can kill you just as fast as a bullet. The cast sweats, bleeds, and doubts. Their courage isn't shiny, it's desperate and raw. This film wasn't a big hit in its day, too grim, too real for audiences looking for triumphant tales. But now, it stands out as a rare, honest look at the true cost of sabotage missions. Watch it, and you'll never see the word dare the same way again. Malta Story, 1953. If you want a war film that gives you both stunning visuals and emotional gut punches, Malta Story is your ticket. This is the movie that takes you to the besieged island of Malta, a tiny speck in the Mediterranean that turned into one of the most bombed places on Earth during World War II. This isn't just a backdrop, it's a living, breathing character, and the film never lets you forget what was at stake. Alec Guinness stars as a British reconnaissance pilot thrown into the chaos of Malta's relentless siege. The island is running on fumes, supplies are dwindling, civilians are exhausted, and the Luftwaffe seems determined to wipe them off the map. The movie dives straight into the grind. Air raids, food shortages, the gnawing fear that help might never come. Yet, even in the darkest hours, there's a stubborn thread of hope tying everyone together. What really hits home in Malta Story is the blend of personal drama with the grand sweep of history. You see the war through the eyes of locals, ground crew, and resistance fighters, not just officers in fancy uniforms. There are no easy answers. Sacrifices are made, and not everyone gets a happy ending. The visuals are sharp, mixing documentary footage with tense aerial battles. You feel every explosion, every close call, every small mercy that keeps the island standing for another day. The movie was a hit at the time, but faded into the background as flashier, louder films took over the genre. Today, it's rarely mentioned, even though it helped set the tone for later British war epics. If you want to understand the true meaning of siege mentality, or just see Alec Guinness before he was a household name, Malta Story delivers the goods. Outro. There you have it, 10 British war dramas from the 1950s that don't just deserve to be remembered, they demand it. These films are more than old celluloid. They're snapshots of grit, loss, humor, and hope, all packed with stories Hollywood never dared to tell. Which one surprised you most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you're hungry for more forgotten classics, hit subscribe and share this with a fellow film buff. British cinema still has plenty of secrets ready for the next deep dive.